Hey guys, Angad here from Ignite. Today we're going to be talking about form in Pygmalion. But before we get started, please be sure to check out our website at ignitehsc.com.au for more HSC resources, and please subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Let's get started. So before we get into the specific aspects of form in Pygmalion, it's important to understand what form is and how you can use it in your essays. So there are three questions we need to think about when we're thinking about form. The first being, what type of text is it? Obviously, Pygmalion's a play. What are the unique features of that text type, which we'll get onto in the next slide, but that's things like stage directions, the ability of the actors to express emotion, dramatic irony, intertextuality, all of those things. And finally, in what style or genre is it composed and what are its features? So the genre of Pygmalion is what's called social realism. It sort of attempts to address and reveal the issues that working classes face as a result of unfair power structures imposed on them by the upper class. It talks about the realities of that life in terms of gender, the economy, society, etc. So now let's get into the unique features of Pygmalion. So if you look at this little diagram, we have four key things which you need to consider. The role of humour, dramatic irony, intertextuality, and leitmotif. Now the first one is very typical of Shaw. He's a satirist, so humour is an important technique that he uses to express the key messages he's trying to purport about the context that he's writing in. Throughout the play, you'll see very absurd and humorous instances for Higgins and the way in which he perceives the world, and the way also in which Analyse is represented and the way that she interacts with others. Humour is the fundamental and one of the most important vehicles that Shaw is able to express his messages, and that is quite evident in this dinner party. Now, within this dinner party, we see another formal feature coming to play here, which is known as dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is essentially the audience knows something that the actors in the play do not. In this case, we know that Eliza is not a part of this world, but the actors think they are because of how she's been seemingly reformed by Higgins in the way that she speaks and the way in which she dresses. This dramatic irony feeds into Shaw's use of humour, because by watching Eliza and the way in which she interacts and how the people in that dinner party relate with her and the way in which they think she's a part of their class is quite humorous, because the way in which she speaks and the way in which she acts is such a jarring and unfamiliar representation of what we know about Eliza from beforehand. However, by finding this humorous, he's forcing us to understand what this superficiality looks like and how problematic it can be. If we think about how Eliza is represented in the dinner party, we can connect that to the intertextuality of the play itself. We will address Pygmalion specifically in the next slide, but intertextuality is when a text uses the basis of another text as an allegory or a way to represent that in a new setting. In this case, the story of Pygmalion, which we'll get onto the next slide. For now, let's discuss a leitmotif, which is a message or a theme that runs throughout a play, or any text for that matter, which has a specific purpose in the representation of characters or messages in that play. In this case, we can think about how Eliza might be a representation of the Cinderella story. And this is quite especially heightened in the dinner party, where we see Eliza dressed up and like you would think Cinderella would be at the ball. Now, if we think about Cinderella and the poor livelihood that she had, there's a similarity to Eliza. And the purpose of this is to give us an easier way of understanding this transformation. It's to give us a tangible or something that we can associate with, a story that we can associate with, that helps us to understand Eliza's transformation. And this is also related to Pygmalion, which we can talk about now. Now, this is obviously the most obvious form of intertext that we have. The Pygmalion story, to be in summary, was an Ovidian who was a famous Roman poet. It's a story about a sculptor, a Cypriot sculptor called Pygmalion, who crafts a sculpture titled Galatia, which is so beautiful that he falls in love with the statue itself. Now, if we think about how characters in Pygmalion are represented, we can think of Higgins as the sculptor and Analyse as the statue. However, whilst in the original story, the sculptor maintains that love for the statue, the end of Pygmalion sees Eliza fall in love with another character, Freddie. Now, in the original story, we see the sculptor maintain his love for this statue. However, in Pygmalion, this is subverted, and Eliza dismisses Higgins and condemns him for his capacity to manipulate her and the mistreatment that he's offered her. And the purpose of this is as written here. It's Shaw's desire to subvert stereotypical romantic endings and satirize gender roles. Now, the importance of this in terms of Higgins sculpting Eliza, it points to these gender roles which you've discussed about how men, because of their role in society and the isolated role of women in society, it shows the capacity for men to control and manipulate them, which Higgins does. He does that with Eliza. He reforms her language, he reforms her dress, but in doing so, he ignores what's underneath. He creates his own statue of her based on language and her appearance and dehumanizes her. He creates his own statue of her and ignores her humanity. And Eliza realizes this. She condemns him and segregates herself from him at the end because she realizes how manipulative this was. And this is a really effective way of Shaw to criticize the gender roles that are evident in Victorian England, because he's using a story that is somewhat well known and somewhat respected and completely overturning that in a modern context to show how that context is different not only from that other context, but to show what the characteristics of that context are, to show what the characteristics of Victorian England are, which is one defined by a very isolating power dynamic between men and women. So much so that a man feels like he can dehumanize a poor girl and craft her into what he believes a girl should look like, to craft her into an idea of her without understanding what she's like as a human. And this message is probably the most important thing that we need to think about in Pygmalion, because it is a story of manipulation, and a story of manipulation that seeks to criticize the very stringent roles that men and women have and how isolating and manipulative that these can be, not only for Eliza and Higgins, but for all women in that society at the time. So that's what you should be thinking about when you're understanding Pygmalion, when you're writing about it. And I hope that's been really informative. So thanks for tuning in. If you want more resources like this, please check out our website at ignitehsc.com.au, and please subscribe to our channel for lots more videos like these. Thanks.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you do like the content, subscribe to our channel and we'll have more videos coming your way.
That's right, guys. Thanks for watching. And please make sure you check out our online resource database. We've had a team of state rank achievers and heads of English put these together for you, covering everything from essay structures and examples all the way through to craft of writing and comprehension skills. So check them out at ignitehsc.com.au, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.